أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Now, if we reflect and ponder about this Quranic verse, we realize that Allah God Almighty teaches us that the heavens contain weaved ropes, and the function of ropes is to produce a pulling action between the objects they are linked to, which means that the basic unit of all forms of energy in creation is 3 weaved ropes. So, as you can see on the screen, this is the basic unit of energy, as learned from the Noble Quran, which is composed of 3 strings weaved together to form the shape shown on the screen. And this is in physics, is unknown today. What is the basic units of all forms of energy? Allah God Almighty teaches us in one verse in the Noble Quran the form of this, which is 3 strings weaved together, which Allah God Almighty calls them hubuk. So we see how a believer would be the teacher of others from the Noble Quran, not the one on the receiving end. Now, the other question, what is the function of these basic units of energy? The answer can be found again in the same Quranic verse, and the heavens containing weaved ropes. Now, the function of ropes is to produce a pulling action between the objects they are linked to, which means that the basic energy in creation generates a pulling action between the 2 objects it's connected to. So, the basic unit of energy, the function of this basic unit, is to produce a pulling action between its 2 ends. And this explains the gravitational energy, magnetic energy, electrical energy, and so forth. The other question to be answered from the Noble Quran, are the basic units of energy continuous or discrete? The answer can be found in the Noble Quran in chapter 54 verse 49, where Allah God Almighty states, Allah God Almighty created everything in discrete, predetermined quantum. Thus, if we reflect and ponder upon this Quranic verse, we realize the following. Allah God Almighty states in the Noble Quran that He created all of His creation in discrete fashion. Thus, energy weaved ropes are discrete, occupying a certain quantized 3D space. The other question to ask in order to understand energy in creation more and more, how do energy basic units propagate? The answer can be found again in the Noble Quran in chapter 21 verse 30, where the Almighty states, have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one united piece? Then Allah God tore them apart, and Allah God has made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? Now, what's the meaning of this Quranic verse? Allah God states that He created everything from water. Now, so many people understand this, that water is essential for life. If there is no water, there is no life. And this is a wrong understanding, because, for example, angels, it can be deduced from Islam that they were created from light. Now, the angels don't drink water, so there should be another meaning for this Quranic verse. The other meaning is this, that Allah God Almighty created everything from water, i.e., He created everything in His creation with the same design and function of water. So, since Allah God Almighty states that He has created everything from water, thus all forms of energy should propagate, like the propagation of energy in water. And energy propagates in water in concentric spheres in 3-dimensional space. So as you can see on the screen, if you throw a rock in a pond of water, which is the energy source, energy propagates in water in concentric circles. And this is in 2-dimensional space. In 3-dimensional space, energy propagates from the source in concentric spheres. So since Allah God Almighty created everything from water, thus all forms of energy propagate from their sources with concentric spheres. And as you can see on the screen, the energy source, each dot represents an energy weaved ropes, which is the basic unit of energy as derived from the Noble Quran, and they propagate from the source with concentric spheres, i.e. the flux is constant along the the radius of the sphere. As you increase the radius, the flux decreases. Now, how to prove this from a scientific point of view? As you can see on the screen, on the right there is energy propagation in water as derived from the Holy Quran, and on the left we have energy propagation from a light source. And we see that energy propagates from a light source with concentric spheres, exactly as derived from the Holy Quran. Also, a light wave has the shape of a water wave, which again reinforces the idea and the statement of Allah Almighty to create everything from water. Also, as you can see on the screen, on the left there is propagation of mechanical energy from its source and propagates with concentric spheres as derived exactly from the Holy Quran. So this proves from a scientific point of view that the theory that is derived from the Holy Quran is true. The other question to ask in order to understand energy more and more in creation, about the status of the basic units of energy. Are they static or dynamic? The answer to this question can be found in the Holy Quran in chapter 41 verse 39, where Allah states, "And among his signs that you see the earth barren, but when he sends down water, it stirred up to life, it vibrates and grows. Verily, he who gives it life surely is able to give life to the dead on the day of resurrection. Indeed, he is able to do all things." It's interesting here to note that Allah Almighty states that it vibrates and it grows. That units in creation of Allah Almighty are in a vibratory state. Thus, weaved ropes in the creation of Allah Almighty are in a vibratory state, like a rope vibrating up and down. So Allah Almighty teaches us that these energy weaved ropes, the basic unit of energy, they are doing a vibratory action like a rope oscillating. Now, what's the importance of these oscillations? As you can see on the screen, when a rope oscillates, its length shortens. Its length in the x direction, so the space it occupies in space becomes less when it vibrates. Its length is constant as a length, but the space it occupies in space becomes less. And when this happens, it produces a pulling action on its two ends, and that is the action of energy. So these units, for example, gravitational field, when these units vibrate, they occupy a smaller space, and thus they produce a pulling action on their two ends, and thus gravitational energy develops. If these ropes, they don't vibrate, there is no gravitational energy. So vibration is very important to perform function. Now, the other question to answer, what is the energy within the seven heavens of the atom? And the atom, as derived from the Holy Quran, is the basic unit of matter in creation. As you can see on the screen, Allah states in chapter 51 verse 7, "And the heavens containing weaved ropes." Now, Allah teaches us that the heavens contain weaved ropes. Thus, the function of ropes is to produce a pulling action between the objects they are linked to, which indicates that gravitational energy exists within the seven heavens of the atom. Thus, the heavens of the atom, gravitational energy is the predominant force in that space. So, as you can see on the screen, an atom can produce a pulling action on another atom or another object when it's in close proximity to it, because each dot you see on the screen represents a gravity weaved rope, and when it vibrates, produces a pulling action, and this can pull any object, any atom that comes in proximity, and this is gravitational energy within the heavens of the atom. Now, to understand the flow of energy weaved ropes, as you can see on the screen, when the basic unit of energy, it vibrates, it produces a magnetic field. So each unit of energy becomes like a small magnet with a north and south pole. Now, when these, as you can see on the screen, when for example, three basic units of energy, when we take a cross section in a gravitational field or energy field, each three basic units of energy, they repel each other, and due to this repulsion, they are arranged in a equilateral triangle. So they form triangles, and triangles will form a hexagonal structure. So widthwise, taking cross-section area, the basic units of energy, they are arranged in hexagonal arrangement. So if we take a cross-section in a gravitational field, as you can see on the screen, or an energy field, we see that the basic units of energy are arranged in a hexagonal arrangement. So to summarize how to understand all forms of energy in creation, firstly, the basic unit of all forms of energy is three strings weaved together, weaved ropes. Secondly, the basic function of these weaved ropes is to produce a pulling action between its both ends. Thus, all forms of energy produce a pulling action. Thirdly, energy weaved ropes propagate an hexagonal pattern from energy source, forming a surface of a sphere. So we see now another thing to understand here, the phenomena of attraction and repulsion between energy fields. As you can see on the screen, if we have two sources, for example, of water, and they propagate head-on collision, then they will cause repulsion between the two sources. Now, if you have a source and a sink, that will produce attraction. So, to summarize, now, if in creation, if we have two sources of energy going collision head-on, that will produce a repulsive force between them. But if you have a source and a sink, that will produce attraction between the two sources. So we see how Allah God Almighty teaches us from the Noble Quran creation in full. And to know more about this, please visit my website at www.quran-miracle.com, and you can email me at zquran@yahoo.com. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.